Hey everyone, I'm Carol Mahoney here, and we are doing our live Buyer First Ask Me Anything. And I'm joined today by my special guest, Kenneth Burke. And before we get into introducing Kenneth, you might notice that my background looks a little bit different. Folks, I'm not in southern New England anymore. I've escaped the winter to southern Florida. And let me tell you, the energy that I have, well, hopefully I don't overwhelm you. But I'm super excited to have Kenneth here. Kenneth and I actually connected when I went on LinkedIn and saw that he was talking about some of the buying experiences that he had. Now, Kenneth is the VP of Marketing for Text Request, which is a business messaging platform. And if you follow him on LinkedIn, he just put out some interesting statistics about what the latest trends are that are happening in texting, which I'm definitely going to check out a little bit more. Ken, you've written over 1,000 articles on business growth for how many dozens of outlets it looks like. You've helped companies go from pre-launch startups to billion-dollar businesses and achieving their goals. And you're from Chattanooga, which I hear you're a big champion of. So let's dive in, Kenneth, because you had said that you've had some good buying experiences. So we've had a couple of guests on the show already who have talked about their bad buying experiences. But let's start it off on a good note and tell me about the good buying experiences you had. I know one that you had mentioned in our previous conversations was Calendly, which I'm familiar with as well. So let's dive in there. When you decided to explore Calendly, what was your process to narrow it down to the vendors that you were trying to decide on?
Yeah, so to start with, what was the problem? So this is years and years ago, and so we were trying to reduce the number of steps it took for somebody to just book a demo with
Hmm.
us. And we've had a at the time, still kind of this way, but at the time we had a fully inbound sales funnel. And so, marketing was doing all the stuff to bring people to the website, and then people would choose to, take an action to talk to us to start a conversation. Um, and we really hated the whole request a meeting option because you'd fill out a form and then somebody on our end would have to then follow up with you via email or phone call, try to get your attention again, now that you've already moved on to something else, to then pin down a time. Wouldn't it
Hmm.
be so much easier if they could just choose a time while they're on the website and then, we'll find somebody who's available and show up and help you? So that was the idea. And so we searched just pretty much just a Google search, a couple of software review platforms. I think in our case, we looked at Capterra and G2 just to get an idea of the kind of the top five that were out there.
Hmm.
And then we started going through, the websites, talking to people. Um, and for us, this is the experience I went through for this, and this is the experience I see most buyers go through. Is we went to the website and we said, we asked, do you do what we need? So what do you do? Can you
Hmm.
actually help us solve this particular problem? What does it look like? And Calendly has some screenshots and illustrations of using the product actually on their website, which is very helpful.
Hmm.
Uh, then what does it cost? Is this even worth us actually spending more time on, or is it going to be completely out of budget? Their pricing's very simple to understand. It's on their website, public. Say, okay, there's another one we could check off the list. Can I trust you? They had logos and reviews spread across their website, and of course on the review platforms. And so we said, okay, hey, we can trust this. And it was also a low enough price point that we could just get going, which brings me to the last question that we ask is, what does it take to get started? What's the next step I need to take?
Hmm.
And I mean, those, 4 or 5 questions there, um, that's the process I go through. Most people on our team go through every time we make a buying decision. But in our experience, it's also what we've seen most people go through for any buying decision. If it's your HVAC or your AC unit goes out, what do? You jump on Google and you say HVAC near me, and then you go to the top three reviewed sites and you check out what they do,
Hmm.
and you send them. You look at pricing if they've got anything there, and you send them a message, and then from that point, it's kind of whoever responds first is who you're going to go with.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this beginning part of your process, you mentioned a couple of things of, how easy is it for us to tell what they do and who they help and how much it costs? Like, is this even in our ballpark? And, what does it look like the actual tool itself? I mean, we're so used to seeing, previews and samples of things through our experiences buying on Amazon to not be able to see it elsewhere probably is frustrating. And the reviews for the trusting and how to take the next step. Out of those steps, what would you say is the most important one for you?
The most important one I would say is going to be pricing.
Hmm.
Like just show me the pricing and exactly what I get with it. And I say it's the most important because it's not, it doesn't necessarily take up the most of the journey, but it's it's the crux on whether or not I'm going to actually buy or not. So I need to know. And if you're going to put hurdles in my way before I can get to that price, the chances of me working with you just go down significantly. Past
Hmm.
that, I want to see what it looks like because I want to know what kind of experience I'm going to have before I actually commit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a common buying situation or a yeah factor as well.
Yeah. No, no, you had mentioned that the price point for this was relatively low. If the price point were higher or it was something that was more complex, how would that have changed what's important to you in the process?
It depends on how complex. I mean, if theirs is it's a set fee per user, and then you have a few tiers that dictate what features you get. And
Hmm.
so and that's very similar to text request pricing as well.
Yeah.
And so if it was $10 a month per user, and you can schedule up to 5 meetings per month with that, and then the next tier is, I don't know, $15 a user, you get some more features, and you can schedule up to 15 meetings a month. If it
Mhm.
was that kind of tiers, that complicates things, and it makes us put more effort into the decision making process than is really necessary. So some of that gets more into packaging and marketing and messaging, things like that. But yeah, just keeping it simple is so helpful. So in
Yeah.
that case, if it had been more expensive, the value they're bringing is large enough. Hopefully, they don't hear this and actually take action on it. But they're bringing enough value that they could charge way more for our use case, and we'd happily pay it because
Yeah.
every demo that comes in, we know has a certain dollar amount associated with it that will make in revenue, and so we're happy to spend whatever to get that. And right now, it's like I don't know, 1/1000th of our average purchase price per
Hmm.
meeting. So
Yeah. And this is what I hear from a lot of clients who are thinking about putting pricing on their website. Their concern is that we don't want to be commoditized. We don't want to scare people away because they think it's too expensive. Or also, we don't want people to just choose the cheapest option either, because that might not be what they actually need. For you, when you're looking at that pricing, are you actually trying to budget it, or are you just trying to get a ballpark of, is this something that we can even afford to do?
uh, it goes in stages, but the latter is the first stage. I just need to see, is this even worth the conversation, right?
Hmm.
And then from there, it's okay. Can we get enough out of this to make it worth it, or do we have the budget, or do we feel comfortable enough maybe scaling something else back so that we can take money from that project and put it towards this? So
Mm.
from there, there are a lot of levers to pull, and a lot of times, to your point, that's what I hear people saying, who refuse to show pricing is things are so custom, they're so complex, we don't want to give somebody the wrong answer up front, uh, which is valid, but you're just elongating the process, the sales cycle, and we know that every time you add another step into the sales process, there's going to be some drop off, and
Mhm.
so you have to understand how much you're losing at each stage, and then ask yourself, are you really comfortable with that?
Yeah. I know for myself as a buyer, when I go through a longer process and you're trying to figure out, is this the tool or the software or the service that's going to be right for me? And you go through the discovery call and the demo call, and maybe you're really excited about the tool. And then you get to the pricing conversation, and in your mind, you're going, please don't say this number. Please
Right.
don't say this number. Right. So I imagine that kind of reduces the friction earlier than later for you.
Yes, it absolutely, and to me, it's also a good lesson in understanding your customer in and out. And so,
Hmm.
if you know who your target customer is, and you are speaking to them in your pricing and packaging and everything else, uh, they're comfortable with this number. They're
Hmm.
used to this kind of number in their budget. I mean, even if it's I don't know, if it's a six-figure deal, they're used to six-figure deals. That's where they spend their time. And so,
Right.
putting $100,000 or $250,000 for enterprise software on your website, in my opinion, should not be something to be afraid of because people are looking at it all the time.
Yeah.
Now, if and it also tells people who would be afraid of that number that hey, we aren't for you,
Hmm.
and that's going to save your time as well. And it works the same in reverse. So Calendly is for instance, coming back to them, is a small fee per user. 10 to 20 bucks, I think, depending on your plan, 10 to 20 bucks a month. And so maybe if you're a big enterprise and you're looking for something that's, more robust, that pricing also tells you that, hey, maybe this isn't a good fit for me.
Exactly. Right.